Today's topic is how to keep your business flat even when you scale. And I've had a number of customers ask me about this. It's all about how do I efficiently scale my business. There are so many businesses, particularly in certain countries, where basically businesses scale and they reach a certain point. And at that point, they don't grow anymore. So they either get bought out or there's just simply no way to move forward on that. So to keep the momentum, today is all about how to keep your business flat even when you scale. So let's kick off here. So we're going to look at quite a few aspects. The first one is increasing communications. In the first place, why do we even need a flatter structure? I don't know about you, but when I was in the corporate world, hierarchy was hierarchy. You know what I'm talking about. So the fight up the ladder, the fight between you and the next salary, that continuous rat race that your employees or you yourself, if you're in the corporate world, need to continuously fight for. When we're doing our businesses, we want something different, and I'm currently working with customers to do exactly that. To organize and improve communications, what we want is a flatter structure. This is a hugely passionate topic for me, and it kind of follows on from the last topic around servant leadership and what we need in organizations and in our businesses to be able to really scale. So how does that help in communications? How, number one, do we increase communications? Well, a flatter structure is all about increasing communications, but it doesn't just happen automatically. We have to think a little bit about that. Now, of course, we've got our management team that we need. This is a commercial aspect to any business. But then the best way to move forward from there is to have teams and team leaders of those teams. But here's the real important thing, is to keep your teams small. And we'll talk a bit about that shortly. But if we just grow massive teams, then again, we're not growing a flat organization. We should think about how do we grow into multiple teams, teams that can help each other, and teams that can provide information and management to that all-important leadership team. Number two, why do we want to go flat? By number two, organizing your people around the work that they're doing. If, for example, you have a technology team, then you need to have that team together. You need to have them sat, if you can, in the same place, or make use of technology so that they can easily collaborate. So, for example, even a sales team, appoint a sales director, of course a team lead. You need somebody to direct that team, particularly if they get bigger than, say, 3 or 4 people. Most importantly, what you want is that team to not get bigger than about 7 people. As soon as you get to double digits, that's where communication breaks down. And I want to prove that to you today by telling you a little bit more about how that works. So when we have teams communicating, we create what's called lines of communication. And that's pretty obvious. But what's more important is how we would actually calculate and understand those lines of communication. So here's a little bit of geeking out on what that might look like. The simple formula to calculate the number of connections between your team members is n times n minus 1 over 2. So n times n minus 1 over 2, where n is the number of team members. Now don't worry about it, we'll put this in the show notes. But what this says is, let's say we have 10 people. That equals 45 connections. So you might say, okay, well, what's the big deal? But what if we go to 30 people? That's 435 connections or links between people. That is 435 channels of communication that we need to, maintain. So this scale, this kind of holds back scaling, and this holds back businesses. So what we need to do is we need to break up large teams into smaller teams, and we need to make sure that they're ready to scale. And to do that, we need to keep them small. We need to keep those lines of communication small, typically around 7 people, where the lines of communication typically will be about 21. So if that doesn't make sense to you, that's absolutely fine. But what we're really trying to do is try and keep those teams organized around the work that they do and keep them in the size that is manageable. Number 3, focus on their specialist skills. There's no point in kind of telling people what role they should be in. We need to really, really turn the tables around and understand what people's skills are. More importantly, you can create career opportunities where people could move between teams, maybe based on, what season they are in their career, or for example, if they're showing talent or skills in a particular area, or maybe just from a career perspective, moving around gives them a fantastic opportunity. And not to mention the staff retention around that. Number 4, centralize your processes. Now, obviously, as you grow, there's no point in just thinking that hundreds of teams are going to work for you. You need to centralize your processes, whether that's within the team or at an organizational level. At Rewired, there are many tools out there, but particularly at Rewired, we use a tool called process.st, where we map out all our processes centrally. This is great when you need to spin up another team because you can kind of copy and paste. Or imagine replicating that team in another location around the world. You would lift and shift that process or process set. Perhaps you would localize that a bit for a local market, but you'd easily be able to spin up another team. So you want to build up that tacit knowledge, get your team to create videos, learning material about how they do things, and let them move forward on a way that they can kind of replicate their success. This is also important to centralize your processes because as you build a number of teams, what you're going to find is that you need a mechanism to be able to align and synchronize all your teams. Alignment and synchronization is crucial because without that, you're just going to grow teams, you're just going to grow an organization, but you're not going to be able to maintain or manage it at all. Obviously, hierarchies attempt to do that, but what I think is far more important is that you have a look at what is the reason we all go to work. Well, the reason we all go to work is to do work. Now, that may sound kind of not. I mean, obviously we want to have a lot of fun at work, we want to have a great time, but what's most important about being at work is productivity, and it's all about why are you there, what are your outcomes, and what are you trying to produce. Number 5, focus on the numbers. The numbers don't lie. Now, you've heard this before, it's actually a cliche, but let's talk about what it means. So rather than micromanaging those teams to death, what we need to do is focus on performance data. So have your team focus on getting fabulous performance data. This will allow the management team and you as a founder to easily be able to walk the floor and focus on the teams or the people where you're really seeing bottlenecks. Now, this is not an easy task, but invest the time and invest the systems, trust the systems, get the data in, and don't move forward with anything without recording some kind of data point on what your team is doing. Number 6, everyone is a team. So what we want is we want to focus on the fact that the team is where all the power is. We can't scale horizontally, which is what we mean by flat, unless we really focus on teams. So what that means is that we can have a team for everything. So we can have a team for HR, a team for obviously technology, we can have a team for sales. Now again, all that might seem obvious, but what we've got to do is keep building those teams, building them horizontally, making sure they have the processes and the MI or the management information or KPIs or any other data that you want from those teams coming forward. Number 7, I hope you'll like this one. It's all about saving money. So horizontal teams or flat structures give us an ability to save money. Now, how do we do that? Well, of course, with hierarchy, we have to keep increasing the salary as we go up the ladder. And what that means for teams is that we have to continuously scale that financial burden. And so what we want is rather to have simple salary structures where maybe we rather reward people through outcomes and outputs, through maybe a reward scheme or a bonus scheme that rewards people, directly for what they do. And so this means that, you actually got a kind of a flat salary structure, but you're using the value of money to grow your teams, to really focus on what teams should be doing. Number 8, you are more agile. Now, what do we mean by that? We mean that you're a lot more agile in the sense that you are able to move quickly. Small teams of up to 7 people can move fast. Your management team, or you as a founder or director or CEO, can manage that team directly, or can ask things of that team directly. You haven't got all those millions of layers to go through. You can make decisions quickly, and you can delegate tasks, etc., to those team leads or those teams to move things forward. Agility and adaptability of your team is everything. Without that, you can't compete, or you're less able to compete in a current market. Number 9, less micromanaging. I don't know about you, but I don't want to micromanage. And this goes back to the servant leadership that we spoke about last time. Allow your teams to flourish, give them the responsibilities that they need and that they want to be able to grow. We're going to talk more next week about how to set up those teams, because of course you may say, what are all the disadvantages of having a flatter organization? What are those disadvantages? Well, there are, I'm sure, quite a few, but I can assure you in the next session what we'll talk about is that as long as you follow the system, you will be able to overcome those, and you will be able to build a large organization using flat structures. Number 10, teams self-solve. So teams collaborate, they self-solve, they work together, they love to solve problems. There's no point in telling a team what to do. Allow your team to self-solve those problems. And as they say, another cliche, more minds are better than one, but again, that will only happen if you create those teams. And finally, innovation, creativity. In a flatter organization, people's voices are heard. They know they're only, 1 or 2 lines away from the management team. And that empowers your teams, that creates opportunity for great productivity, great creativity and innovation. And it just brings that ability for everyone to have an equal voice. So again, I hope you enjoyed today's topic. That is all about why and how to keep your organization flat when you scale. I'd love to hear your comments after this post. I'd love you to go over, if you can, subscribe through your favorite podcast application, subscribe to Rewired for Success, and I'd really appreciate your comments there. And if you're able to leave a review, that would be greatly appreciated.